It was early morning in San Giovanni Rotondo. The corridors of the Friary were still dark. The other friars had not yet risen, and yet Padre Pio was already awake, not because of the hour, but because of something else. Something no one else in that building could perceive. He stood motionless near the window of his cell, his lips moving without sound, his eyes fixed on nothing visible. According to the testimony later recorded by Father Alessio Parente, one of his closest spiritual sons, Padre Pio would sometimes remain in this posture for long stretches, praying for someone whose name he had not been told, whose face he had never seen, whose death had just occurred hundreds of kilometers away. No one had telephoned, no telegram had arrived, and yet he knew. This was not unusual. It had been happening for decades. The question that remains, and that this testimony does not answer, is what exactly Padre Pio saw in those moments. What did he witness when a soul departed from its body? What passed before his interior vision at the instant of separation between flesh and spirit? He rarely spoke of it. When he did, his words were not explanations. They were fragments, heavy, reluctant, and almost immediately silenced. Those who heard them did not ask follow-up questions. Something in his voice made inquiry impossible. And so we are left, not with a doctrine, but with a presence. Not with a vision described, but with a man who carried what he had seen and continued, day after day, to hear confessions for 10, 12, sometimes 18 hours, as though every soul still breathing might still be reached. To understand the weight of this, we must return to the sources. Father Alessio Parente, who lived alongside Padre Pio for many years and later compiled testimonies in works such as Send Me Your Guardian Angel and The Holy Souls, recorded numerous episodes in which Padre Pio demonstrated knowledge of deaths occurring at a distance, not through any natural means, but through a form of interior perception that defied explanation. According to Father Alessio's collected accounts, Padre Pio would sometimes interrupt a conversation, fall silent, and then say quietly that a particular person had just died. On other occasions, he would ask the friars to pray for a soul who is now before God, a soul whose death had not yet been reported to anyone in the friary. These were not dramatic proclamations. They were murmured, almost involuntary, as if the knowledge itself was a burden he did not wish to carry aloud. One such episode, preserved in the testimonies gathered at San Giovanni Rotondo, involved a man who had been ill for some time in a distant city. Padre Pio had never met him. Yet on the morning of his death, Padre Pio told a fellow friar, without prompting, that the man had passed, and that his soul was safe but wounded. He did not elaborate. He did not explain what wounded meant. When the friar attempted to ask, Padre Pio simply closed his eyes and continued praying. The confirmation of the man's death arrived hours later. What are we to make of such a phrase, safe but wounded? The Church's teaching, as expressed in the Catechism of the Catholic Church at paragraph 1022, affirms that each soul, immediately upon death, undergoes the particular judgment, a definitive encounter with Christ, in which the soul's eternal destiny is revealed. This judgment is not delayed. It does not wait for the end of time. It occurs at once. The Gospel of Luke, in chapter 16, verse 22, presents the death of Lazarus in precisely this way. The poor man dies, and immediately he is carried by angels to the bosom of Abraham. There is no interval, no pause. The transition is instant, and yet, if the judgment is instant, if the soul passes in a single breath from time into eternity, from the body into the presence of God, then why did the witnessing of it leave Padre Pio so visibly broken? Why did a man who perceived what doctrine tells us is immediate and complete emerge from those moments not with clarity, but with exhaustion, not with peace, but with tears? The testimonies do not describe a man receiving swift information. They describe a man crushed beneath something too heavy to name. The judgment may be instant, but whatever Padre Pio saw in that instant was enough to bend him for hours afterward. This is the first fracture in our understanding, the friction between what the Church teaches and what the witness endured. And it is a fracture the testimonies never repair. Padre Pio, according to numerous accounts, seemed to perceive this transition as it happened. But he did not speak of angels. He did not describe what he saw. He only prayed and sometimes wept. In another account preserved by Father Alessio Parente, a woman came to Padre Pio in the confessional, distressed about a relative who had died suddenly and without the sacraments. She feared for his soul. She begged Padre Pio to tell her whether he was lost. Padre Pio was silent for a long moment. Then, according to the testimony, he said only this: he suffered much at the end. That suffering was not wasted. He offered no further detail. He did not say the man was saved. He did not say he was in purgatory. He did not say he was in heaven. He said only that the suffering, whatever it was, had not been without meaning. The woman left the confessional in tears. Not from despair, not from relief, from something else, something closer to the edge of mystery itself. This is the tone that runs through all the testimonies concerning Padre Pio and the dying. A tone of gravity without theatrics, of sorrow without sentimentality, of knowledge without explanation. Those who witnessed these moments did not come away with clarity. They came away with weight. There are also the episodes of bilocation moments, in which Padre Pio, while physically present in San Giovanni Rotondo, appeared at the bedsides of the dying in other cities, other countries. These episodes are documented in the ecclesiastical records compiled during the investigation of his cause for canonization. In several cases, witnesses reported seeing Padre Pio at the moment of a relative's death, praying beside them, sometimes anointing them, while other witnesses confirmed that Padre Pio had not left the friary. When asked about these events afterward, Padre Pio typically refused to speak of them. On the rare occasions when he acknowledged that something had occurred, he did so in the briefest possible terms. According to one such testimony, a friar once asked Padre Pio directly what he experienced during these episodes. Padre Pio looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "You do not want to know." He did not say this with menace. He said it with exhaustion, as if the knowing itself was a kind of suffering. And here the fracture widens. The doctrine speaks of judgment as an encounter with infinite mercy and infinite justice, an encounter that, however fearful, is also an encounter with God. But Padre Pio, who witnessed this encounter from the other side, never spoke of it with consolation. He spoke of it, when he spoke at all, with the voice of a man who had seen something that could not be unseen. The Church teaches that the particular judgment is a moment of truth. Padre Pio's testimony suggests that the truth of that moment is more than a living soul can bear to witness. Consider what it would mean to perceive, not once, but repeatedly, over the course of 50 years, the instant in which a human soul passes from time into eternity. To see not only the death, but the arrival. To perceive not only the body's collapse, but the soul's first encounter with the judgment of God. This is not a vision that could be absorbed without consequence. It is not a knowledge that could be carried lightly. If Padre Pio truly saw what these testimonies suggest he saw, then every Mass he celebrated, every confession he heard, every penance he imposed would have been colored by that awareness. Every soul before him would have been a soul on the edge of that same threshold. This may explain why Padre Pio was so severe in the confessional. According to the testimonies of those who knew him, he did not offer easy absolution. He sometimes refused absolution altogether, not out of cruelty, but out of a knowledge that the penitent was not yet ready, not yet sincere, not yet aware of what was at stake. He wept during confessions. He groaned. He sometimes struck the wooden frame of the confessional in anguish. Those who witnessed this did not interpret it as performance. They interpreted it as the overflow of something too heavy to contain. Father Gabriele Amorth, the renowned exorcist who knew Padre Pio personally, once remarked that Padre Pio seemed to carry the weight of souls as Christ carried the cross. This was not metaphor, it was observation. The weight was visible. It marked his face. It bent his posture. It silenced his speech. And yet he continued, 18 hours in the confessional, day after day, year after year, knowing what awaited each soul, knowing how few were truly prepared, knowing that some, even among those who knelt before him, would not be saved, and that others, far away, were dying at that very moment without the chance he was offering. There is a moment recorded in the testimonies collected at San Giovanni Rotondo in which Padre Pio, during Mass, suddenly stopped. He stood motionless at the altar, his hands still raised, his eyes open but unseeing. The friars present did not interrupt. They had seen this before. Minutes passed. Then Padre Pio resumed the Mass without explanation. Afterward, he was asked what had happened. He said only, "A soul has just appeared before God. Pray for him." He did not say whether the soul was saved. He did not say whether it was lost. He said only that it had appeared and that prayer was needed. This phrase, "appeared before God," recurs throughout the testimonies. It is not a phrase that offers comfort. It is not a phrase that offers terror. It is a phrase that offers only proximity, the unbearable closeness of judgment, the immediacy of the encounter, the finality of the moment. And here the fracture opens a third time, wider than before. The Catechism teaches that this appearance before God is the fulfillment of human existence, the moment for which every soul was created. It is described in the tradition as an encounter with love itself. And yet the man who witnessed it more frequently than perhaps any other saint in modern history did not speak of love. He spoke of prayer. He spoke of need. He wept. He collapsed. He carried, for the rest of each day, a weight that visibly crushed him. If the particular judgment is an encounter with mercy, then why did the witness to that mercy never seem comforted by what he saw? If it is an encounter with justice, then what kind of justice leaves its observer unable to speak? The testimonies do not answer this. They only record it. Padre Pio lived in that proximity. He breathed it. He carried it. He was consumed by it. And he never, in all the years of his priesthood, attempted to explain it. When penitents asked him about death, he did not give theological lectures. He did not quote scripture at length. He said things like, "Prepare yourself," or "Do not wait," or simply, "Pray." These were not evasions. They were the only responses possible for a man who had seen too much to speak and who knew that no explanation could substitute for readiness. In the Gospel of Luke, the rich man who ignored Lazarus at his gate dies and finds himself in torment. He begs Abraham to send someone to warn his brothers. Abraham replies that they have Moses and the prophets. If they will not listen to them, they will not be convinced even if someone rises from the dead. Padre Pio, it seems, understood this passage not as doctrine but as lived experience. He had seen the threshold, he had witnessed the passage, and he knew that no amount of description would change a single soul that was not already willing to be changed. So he did not describe. He suffered, he prayed, he heard confessions, he said Mass, he wept for the dead and bled for the living. And when the moment came, when a soul somewhere in the world crossed the threshold into eternity, he knew it, and he bore it, and he said almost nothing. In the final years of his life, according to the testimonies of those closest to him, Padre Pio spoke even less. His silences grew longer, his gaze grew more distant. He seemed, at times, to be already partly elsewhere, already attuned to a frequency the rest of us cannot hear. When he died, on September 23, 1968, the friars who attended him reported that his passing was quiet, almost imperceptible. One moment he was breathing, the next he was not. There was no struggle, no cry, only a stillness that seemed, to those present, like recognition, as if he was finally crossing the threshold he had witnessed so many others cross before him. What he saw in that final moment, we do not know. What awaited him on the other side, we cannot say. We are left only with the testimonies, the fragments, the silences, the weight. We are left with a man who saw the instant of death more clearly than perhaps any other saint of the modern age, and who responded not with revelation but with labor, not with spectacle but with sacrament, not with fear but with tears. And we are left with a phrase that was never explained, a phrase spoken once, in the early morning hours, about a man who had just died far away, a phrase that Padre Pio offered without elaboration and then buried in silence, safe but wounded. He did not say what the safety cost. He did not say where the wound came from. He did not say whether such a wound ever heals. And now, whoever is listening to this, wherever you are, whatever hour it is, whatever state your soul is in at this moment, the same threshold awaits, the same instant approaches. Not in theory, not as doctrine, not as a story about a saint who lived decades ago in a friary on a hill in southern Italy. It approaches for you. It may come decades from now. It may come tomorrow, It may come before this recording ends, and when it comes, there will be no interval, no pause, no opportunity to prepare that was not already taken or already refused. The breath you are drawing now is one breath closer to the last breath you will ever draw. And in the moment after that breath, in the instant Padre Pio witnessed again and again and could never bring himself to describe, you, too, will appear before God. Padre Pio knew what that appearance looked like. He wept over it, and he did not tell us why.